First of all, I just want to thank our players for a really good camp. Love the way they competed. It was a really good camp. I thought it was physical. It was it was close in a lot of areas. So I just want to thank our players, thank our staff, thank our coaches, just all the work that went into it. With that, I'll take some questions.
What was the thinking at backup quarterback, bring in Malik instead of the two guys you had all camp?
Yeah, I think certainly there's some underwhelming performances, I think, at times. But at the same time, Malik is a guy that certainly he's in his third year, and he really has shown a lot of progression, particularly this preseason. And it was just an opportunity for us to add a guy that I think can not only make plays with his arm, but with his legs as well. And I'm excited to get him in the building, and see where that goes.
He seems like a much different player than Love. How much do you have to change? Would you have to change your offense if he has to play?
No, I don't think so. Not much at all. In fact, he's got some crossover in this offense anyway. And I think that was the one thing this preseason, as we track guys through their early stages of their career. The one thing that we saw, particularly with this new coaching staff in Tennessee, is just how much he had progressed within the offense, playing from the pocket and making plays that way. So. Again, I mean, this will be new for him, and obviously the quarterback position, it'll take a little bit of time, but at the same time, just kind of really excited where his progression has taken him this far and where he'll go, particularly under our group.
Do you think he'll be able to get up to speed with the offense to be the number 2 by week 1? Or?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
The kicking, you put a lot into the kicking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How did you end up, where you are right now?
Yeah, I think just obviously, I think you guys know when we went into this, we rotated some kickers through here. I think we were the only team to have 3 for most of the training camp, and so we were looking a lot. We were monitoring the league, Brendan was a kid that we liked coming out, and then he had an excellent preseason there in Tennessee. So, as it unfolded and he was let go, we just thought it was an opportunity to get a really good young kicker and give him a shot at it.
Do you have the confidence to go with a totally new guys, or going to be some sort of competition there?
I mean, so I think obviously Narverson will be on the active, and then Alex Hale will be on the practice squad. So we'll have 2, but right now we're going to go with Braden.
Brian, when you were talking to Tennessee about Malik, were you talking to him about the kicker as well, or what? Like, it seems weird the way it happened.
Yeah, there's conversations that go on, throughout camp from our, not only from me but from our pro scouts that are talking to these teams all the time. So there were some conversations, but ultimately it just kind of fell how it fell.
Brian, what was sort of your reaction to Aaron Mosby's finish to the preseason, and also him being able to make that jump on the 53 this year?
Yeah, really proud just at the way he's progressed. When we first got him, he's a little bit of a tweener. Is he an inside backer? Is he an outside backer in our old scheme? And then as we moved into this 4-3, we put his hand down and he really kind of took off. And you got to give him a lot of credit. He's put a lot of work into it. And really, not only as an edge rusher and his ability to rush a passer and do all the things that we're asking him to do on the defensive line, but in special teams as well. His ability to kind of play multiple spots there, and play it well. And then he produced. He just did a really nice job producing. He kept getting better each week, and was showing up in practice. It showed up in the games. Excited for what he was able to accomplish this camp.
As you know, there's a lot of unknowns with a rookie kicker. Mm-hmm. And how do you know about the mental makeup and how a guy will handle something like this situation?
Yeah, I don't know if you ever, for sure. I mean, I think certainly we scout that, and certainly he had a great preseason where he hit a 59-yarder and then a game winner at the end to handle that kind of pressure. So you're constantly monitoring that stuff, but until you get him in Lambeau Field and everything that brings, I'm not sure you ever know. I mean, I'm probably not as patient with specialists as I should be. I'm not. I mean, I give Ted a lot of credit. Certainly he was a much patient man than I was. But, I think Mason was under 80% until like his 5th year. And then that 6th year was my first year in the office in 2012. And I think he was 60-some%, and he missed like 12 kicks, and I can tell you right now that there was people in the office that were like, let's move on. And, so I probably need to be a little bit more patient. I mean, we had J.K. Scott in here. He's turned into a very good punter, but at the same time, I'm very confident in this team and what we can accomplish. So I want to make sure we give this team every opportunity to win. And so there's going to be a standard that we're going to try to reach.
So you had used a draft pick on Carlson a year ago. What ultimately made you decide to turn the page on him, and how much did that last field goal, that last kick in the last preseason game factor into it?
Yeah, I think it was a culmination of the whole camp and everything. I think, for me, and I think our group, as we went through it, it was just, we were going to try to get better there, and whether that was Anders or that was somebody from outside, it didn't matter. But we needed to get better. We felt we needed to get better, and so that's kind of the reason why we made the decision. Kickers in this league, some of them come out right away and they can handle it, and sometimes they got to bounce around a few times before they actually land. I think Anders is probably going to be one of those guys. He's got a ton of talent. He actually had a pretty solid rookie year for us, but I just think at this time we were looking for a little bit better, and that's the direction we're heading in.
What did you learn about AJ's stinger that made you guys put him on that season-ending IR?
Yeah, I think that we're very, very cautious with head, necks, and hearts around here. We always have been. Obviously he had the injury last year. Went through some things this year, and I won't get into the details of it, but it was just something that we weren't comfortable with at the moment. Hopefully that will change in time. Obviously, he won't be with us this year. But he's gonna need some time to get through this to see exactly how this will shake out. But I wish him the best for him. Obviously, he's a pro's pro, and it's a tough blow when these things happen. But hopefully, here in short time, he'll get some good news.
Ryan, you talked about how you're very confident in this team and want to give them every chance to win. When you have two high-profile battles that all eyes are on the kicker, back, or quarterback, and you end up going with someone from the outside, what message does that send to your team about turning over every rock and doing everything you can and being super competitive at every chance?
Yeah, I don't know. I think our guys want to win, and so when we bring in people from the outside, I think it's like anything else. If these guys see that they can help us win, they're going to be all for it. I don't know if it really sends any message, but I think the guys that have been here any length of time understand that's kind of how we do things, and they've gone through seasons where you see guys here every Tuesday and us turning the practice squad, and so I think it's kind of standard, operating procedure around here. So the guys that have been here will know it, and the guys that are new get up to speed pretty quick.
Brian, I don't know when the kicking battle that we watched all of offseason was before Saturday, but is Anders here if he makes a 32-yard field goal, or does it come down to that being the last?
No, it doesn't come down to something like that. I mean, certainly that matters, right? I mean, that certainly matters, but that wasn't something that turned the page on it.
In hindsight, what do you think he missed there? Because he might be a good kicker one day, but he had his struggles.
I mean, I think it's like whenever you go into, particularly quarterback and kicker are always an interesting because of there's just only one guy out there, right? So it's always an interesting the way those guys kind of go through this league. There's a lot of bouncing around with those guys sometimes before they land. So we certainly knew that was a possibility when we drafted Anders. I can't say enough about his work ethic. He's put in all the time. I mean, he's done everything we've asked him to do, and he's had some really good moments here. Again, I think it's no different than anything else. We're constantly looking at if there's an opportunity that we think we might have a chance to get better. Does it make sense to take that chance? And in this particular instance, I felt it was necessary.
So when you say take that chance, Goody, it is a risk, right? I mean, this is a guy you don't really know much about. So I would think in your position, the one thing you don't want to do is then have this not work out, and then you're trying other guys out all the time. Like, where do you go from here when you are where you are?
That's part of it, and I think that's just, it's not just here. It's in every, pretty much every building in the league. I mean, guys got to produce. If they don't produce, it's going to be short. It's going to be a short leash, and so for me, it's just it's really no different than it ever has been. I mean, we're going to always kind of. We're working all year to kind of see if there's opportunities to make us better, and if there is, and we can, we're going to try to do that. If we're really excited to get Braden in here to see what he can do, and he's certainly got a lot of talent, and we're excited about that. And but at the end of the day, all these guys that made this team, they got to produce. I mean, that's part of the National Football League. And I really like our group. I really like the way they work. I like the way that they're working together and connecting. Again, we got a long ways to go, but I like this group, and I'm excited to add the guys that we added over the last few days.
where do games fit into the evaluation process at this point? You know, like, you obviously drafted 2 linebackers, so it's gonna be tough for Christian, but it would seem like Welch did absolutely everything he could have to make this team and still didn't. So how do you kind of view the game component at this point in the NFL?
Yeah, it's the most important part, right? I mean, that's what it is. I think, Christian, along with a few others, absolutely did everything and deserved to make this football team. We had more than 53, in my opinion, that deserved to make this football team, and deserved to make a 53 roster. That's a great problem. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to look people in the eye that that have produced and played well enough to make your team and have to move on. That's really, really hard. I'm glad some of our guys got opportunities, and Christian as well, because I think they deserve it and they've earned it. But that's very, very difficult.
Ryan, can you talk about the process with the wide receivers and kind of that decision with Bo and with Malik making the cut and then Grant not, and kind of just what it all came down to?
Yeah, again, another really, really, that was a great competition throughout the entire camp with those guys. They all had their moments, and at some point, you're debating a lot of things. Do you keep 6? Do you keep 7? How does it look? Offense, defense, special teams, all those things go into it. And again, really happy for Grant that he's going to get an opportunity here. But I just think at the end of the day, some of the things that Malik and Bo did just made more sense for us at this time. At the same time, if we would have kept Grant, again, he earned it. He deserves to be somewhere. And I'm glad he's getting the opportunity in Miami.
How much of that was special teams?
Yeah, it's definitely part of it. I mean, first of all, the thing I love about Malik is obviously all those guys are excellent. I mean, they do the grinding, the dirty work, the blocking. They're all willing to do that. They're tough as nails. Malik's got a very unique ability to make plays when it matters. When the ball's in the air, it's kind of his. He has a great ability to go attack the football, make tough catches. He's been a playmaker from college to the moment he got here, and I think he's just a very reliable player when it matters.
Either Carlson or Joseph, did you present them with an opportunity to come back on the practice squad, or is that not on the table at this point?
Not at this moment, but both of those guys I would have no hesitation bringing back here if I thought that was the right thing to do.
You had a few guys claimed. When you were going through those final roster decisions, were you thinking there was a pretty good likelihood this year that maybe you weren't going to have the opportunity to get some of these guys in the practice squad like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's always less guys claimed than you think, Certainly I thought with the preseasons that Anthony had, that Christian had, that Grant had, I thought, they played really well in the preseason, and they're not rookie players. So, there's a little bit more tape and a little bit more information on those guys. That they would have a chance to get claimed, along with Royce as well. He's played. He's got a lot of tape in this league. Veteran offensive linemen that can play multiple spots are hard to find. So and Royce is one of those guys. So you always kind of think that those were the kind of the guys we thought would have an opportunity to get claimed and picked up. But you were always hopeful that you were able to get them back and recruit them to your practice squad.
With your job, there's like 10 poll days and weeks, like the draft, you accumulate a lot of talent. This week you have to make some tough decisions. What's that like to have both ends of that spectrum? And then what's next week like for you when you see the team take the field for the first time in a game?
Yeah, I think, we always talk about that first practice once you have everything set. Is a nice day to get out there and see your team and get beyond this, because this is a really tough, 3-4 days for everybody involved. It's not easy to go through this process and make these decisions, but more importantly, you got a lot of young men in there that have put a ton of work into this, and to kind of have to tell them you don't want to move on, but just by rules you have to, and so it's really tough. So it's good to get down the other side of it. At the same time, I mean, nothing really stops. In a few hours here, we're going to get another transaction of a bunch of guys that are now released because of the claims, and we're going to go through that. We're going to, evaluate that and see if anything that, any of those guys can possibly help us, So, there's roughly 1,000 guys put on the market, over the last day. So, we're going through that. Like we always do, we'll have a ton of workouts here in the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season. And as you guys know, our roster will change between now and October, November, December.
You got 5 practice squad spots for him. Is that going to be from that group, or do you have more resignings coming, do you think?
Yeah, we have a few guys coming in that we've kind of agreed to, and then there's a couple, decisions we're still kind of waiting on. Hopefully by tomorrow's practice, we'll be full, but we'll see.
You're a draft and develop team. You've had a lot of grace with young players throughout your time here. With Michael Pratt, obviously you decided to move on rather quickly. What kind of gave you the conviction that it just wasn't going to work here in Green Bay?
I never had that conviction. I think it very much well could have worked here in Green Bay. I think the opportunity to get Malik in here and then having to kind of make a decision. I think certainly we could have thought about having 4 quarterbacks on the roster, but I think that's really hard to get reps and develop. I think that's very tough. I think Michael's got a bright future in this league, and I would have no hesitation in bringing him back. I think really it was the opportunity to acquire Malik that just kind of forced our hand there.
How did that come together? I'm curious about just the process of that trade, and then when you talk about having more than 53, did you have some conversations about trades going the other way with some of the guys?
Yeah, all those conversations. Those conversations start, actually prior to training camp starting, and our guys do a great job of kind of setting the table for me as far as what might be available out there as we go. So we're watching that each week, and we're watching all the tape and kind of seeing and predicting what might be available, and so those conversations are being had between pro scouts and different people throughout. Certainly Malik is a guy going into his in his 3rd year, and he was kind of running in 3rd string for them. So you're just wondering how that was going to shake out, and through conversations it just became that he was going to be available, and I think it took about 24 hours, and then that deal was done. So.
Moment in that process when he flashes something in the preseason? You mentioned his growth, but you're like, oh, this is different. He's taking a step here. He could help it. And what was that?
Yeah, I think he's always shown the traits. He's a really good athlete, a very strong athlete, strong arm, able to make all the throws. He came from Liberty. I think in a little bit, they're obviously 2 different guys, but a little bit like Jordan, when you're a very young kid coming from a smaller level of competition. You saw the flashes early on in his preseason work. But then I thought this year, particularly, and there was a coaching staff change as well to a little bit of a new system, but the way his patience and the way he was going through his progressions and ability to play from the pocket, when to run, when not to run, those kind of things, I thought, progressed. Again, it's a short sample size in the preseason, but I thought he did a nice job. And, I think his ability to win with his arm and his legs was something that attracted us to him. And, so that's kind of how that unfolded.